Hi, everyone. Welcome back to PIC Connection Podcast. I have Alec Italiano again.
Hi, everybody.
And then a new guest is the talent acquisition leader, Dick Holler.
Hi, everybody.
So today we're going to be talking about some virtual tips on like Zoom interviews that are happening throughout the world right now. So, Mr. Holler, how are the virtual job fairs working right now?
They're working out pretty well. The ones that we've sponsored ourselves, basically the way we set them up for our virtual job interviews or job fairs is that, we post flyers and all that information on Facebook and some other resources. And then the candidates will either email or call us with their name and information. Then we send them the link. And then after that, basically what we do is we meet one-on-one. We schedule them with a one-on-one appointment during a certain time slot. With all that, then we try to see if any of their skill sets match any of our job openings. If they do, then we have them apply for a position, and we go through the next phase would be our interviewing with some of the directors and hiring managers, move the process along that way. So it's been very receptive to people. The first step of that interview part of that, when we're having one-on-one talk about their skill sets and so forth, we're just trying to see if there's a good match, and most people are very appreciative of that opportunity we're giving them.
Nice. Yeah. Now to that one.
It's definitely a little different this year, isn't it? But I think we have adapted. You kind of have to roll with the punches here. And I've seen a lot of people doing the virtual job fairs.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of colleges doing them, and I've seen, other, whether they're hiring organizations or whatever, trying to do something similar. So I think it's good. I think the only thing that you really miss is physically like showing up to the place of work that you would potentially be working out, obviously.
Right.
And, and sometimes you could tell, you could speak to this, Dick, but, sometimes that punctuality is like an important thing. You'll get that on Zoom, but it's a lot easier to be on time for a Zoom meeting than it is, getting in your car, getting ready and driving across town, because that's what their commute's going to be like anyways for that place of, employment. So, but I wouldn't say things have slowed down here hiring wise at all since we started doing this, right? So.
Yeah, I think we've attracted a different applicant pool sometimes on those job fairs that we've done. I think then people have reached out to us or some other staff members as well to see, what type of openings we do have. So like you said, Alec, it's been relatively kind of busy for us, and getting interviews set up with, whether it's within our Head Start or our workforce staff, getting them interviewed, and hopefully, those interviews go well and getting them employed.
Yeah, I just think it's weird. You're still in school, I don't know if they're doing virtual job fairs at Seton Hill, but I just remember when I was in school, you went to the gym and you had everybody
I
lined.
actually met Mr. Holler at the fair.
Right. So obviously it works,
Yeah, that one was in person, but it does work.
But I think that's what you're missing, like the marketing of the events, to go and just, you're kind of dressed up and you kind of get yourself kind of like in that mindset, and you print off your resumes and kind of maybe prepare a couple of things to say about yourself when you go to those. And I know my sister, she does a big one at Penn State for who she works for right now. And she got all dressed up and set up like a Zoom thing in her apartment so she could do it, But that was always a big deal to go to the big job fairs, especially for recent college graduates now. And I know it's always a little different maybe for, like general public, you're just going to the job fairs, and they would do so many of those. But I think that's the only thing you're really missing is you're missing the marketing of it. People try to make a big deal about it. Like, go to the Ramada, Saturday from noon to 4. And you kind of have that group of people coming in, already there that you're trying to, in the company perspective, you're trying to attract the people. And then, on the other side, they're trying to obviously get hired. So I think that's the only thing that you're really missing. But
Ours is pretty much scaled down too. I mean, some of the
Yeah.
ones I've been invited to as an employer to go to, some of those are $300, $400, $500 easy
Right.
to go. And there's other employers there. So that doesn't guarantee you anybody's going to actually show up in your virtual room when you sign up for those. Where ours, when we already have a captive audience when we do ours online. So, there's give and take with that. I agree with
Pros and
you.
cons, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I think there's that connection. I mean, I did meet Anna,
Mhm.
at one, and we have another staff member I met at the Ramada here in Greensburg for another position we end up hiring for. So, I mean, those do work, but the virtuals, I think that after the first 5 or 10 minutes, you can tell if somebody's really interested in the job,
Yeah.
not just trying to meet some type of a need of some sort
Right.
for unemployment or whatever. But in all honesty, I mean, I think most people are sincere what they're trying to look for, and you're trying to see if it's a match. And then if it is, then that's the next step we try to take with them as far as get them in the application, other materials.
Okay.
Now, we've all seen and heard about strange things happening on Zoom interviews. Do you have any tips and things you should avoid and actually do whenever you're on a Zoom interview?
Yeah, I mean, strange things have happened,
Has anything happened to you personally doing it for PIC?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I didn't think so.
But no, I think, first of all, one of the biggest things I think people really need to do is make sure their computer is updated, their laptop, that they do have a camera on it.
Right.
And again, if they do need to download the Zoom app on their computers or upload it, however they, some people, depending whether you have a tablet or an iPad with that. But I would say making sure your software and all that's upgraded and ready to go, because I mean, we've had some issues with people who that didn't happen. They had to call in, and it's happened several times with that as well.
Well, we were talking punctuality, and then maybe it only takes a few minutes to download the Zoom app, but
Right.
those few minutes is sort of sometimes what makes you late. And then you got to go back and find the meeting invite and all that. So.
And then trying it, mess with it a little bit. If you get on there and mess with it, just become familiar with it. A lot of people don't know how to turn the mute button on or off. And then you're trying to,
We're not muted now, are we? No. Okay.
But I mean, that happens a lot. People are like, can you hear us? Or shaking their head. We're like, we can't hear you. And then we're telling them, hey, in the bottom left-hand corner, there should be a microphone with that. So, I mean, those are two of the biggest ones on simple things for people to be able to do. Practice if you're capable of it, to use it. If you can get on and mess around with it just to see what it looks like, because you're seeing yourself along with potentially 3 or 4 other people in an interview. So that's kind of overwhelming to people who are not used to interviewing. So just get an opportunity to do that.
I'll tell you what, I didn't actually interview, obviously, but I did like a presentation for a grant. It was right when COVID happened. It was like right around March. We were all working from home, and it was still kind of intimidating. Like, you're kind of sweating when you're in a job interview to begin with, but there was like 3 or 4 people up on the screen, and I was all dressed up, and like made sure my dog was upstairs, and like nobody was gonna bother me and everything. But it strangely felt just like a regular interview, so I think everybody needs to prepare for it just like it would be an in-person one still. Definitely wear pants, right?
Always pants.
That's what we were joking with on the way in, like, make sure you're, because then if you get up or.
Make sure you're fully clothed.
Yeah,
always.
right. It's like prepare for it just like it was an in-person one,
And again, having lighting in a room and having a decent backdrop as well. And you mentioned about your dog, but, I mean, if you have an animal or a pet, finding a room that's find a room that's quiet, that you can lock the dog, kids, other noises out of the room, because again, you're interviewing for that position. So it's important to the employer to interview you. They see you have a certain set of skill sets and vice versa. I mean, should be a professional interview, not with your cell phone ringing on the table, your dog barking and the child running behind you during the interview, which it can happen.
Yeah. And I think people are pretty understanding of it when it does happen.
Right.
You just don't want it to be like a consistent thing, So.
I mean, and again, we were doing an interview one time, and there was a couple children in the background, just, it was over and we were having a casual conversation with people. You
Yeah.
could just see the little kids like peeking around the corner and, you
What's
know,
mommy or daddy
the
doing?
candidate was like laughing. She goes, "Oh, my kids." The next thing you know, the dog jumped up in her lap.
Oh, boy.
Everybody would know what type of dog. It was over, but,
Yeah,
you know, but that could happen during an interview
that's funny.
as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I would say another thing is, you know, make sure that you find a good location to do it and you have good internet connection.
Yeah.
Because we say this a lot to people. We've been doing this since the end of March. We've done a ton of interviews, but making sure you have a good internet connection, because sometimes during the interview, more so it's a candidate, you know, maybe their bandwidth isn't strong enough and they'll be talking and it'll break up, or they'll freeze. You can still hear them talking.
Right.
And some of that you can't control, but making sure that you're in a good hotspot in your house or wherever you go.
Hardwired in if possible, like
Yeah.
if you have a Ethernet
Right.
cable for your laptop or something like that, you know, I think is important. I think now that places have reopened a little bit more, I know a lot of libraries have, you know, like study rooms or something like that. So,
Right.
like if you don't, maybe you don't have, you're just using like a hotspot at your house or something and you're worried about it, you know, that might be a good tip to actually just go to the library or like another public place and do it there. So that's good. I know the internet thing can be the most frustrating thing. I know in a couple of meetings. And sometimes, you know, we're here in the office and all of a sudden someone starts downloading a large file on the other side of the building and the internet becomes poor, you know, and it's so frustrating. It can be. So
Now, do you find it important, whenever I was in school and we were doing all virtual learning, professors would suggest that we wear headphones in order to make ourselves sound better whenever we were giving a presentation. Do you find it important to wear like headphones during like interviews, or is it not as important as people are making it out to be?
My preference is I would rather them not have it, because to me it sounds muffled and you can hear every breath they're taking, every movement, every sniffle.
that's a good point.
With
Especially
that,
if you're not used to doing
right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most people who use that, they have the gaming head device.
Right.
Would have, you know, it looks like a football headset.
If Colin was here, he could demonstrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I guess it's your own preference, but
Yeah.
to me, I would say that, I mean, again, you're trying, being professional as possible. And some people in the circumstance, condition where they're interviewing, they might have to do that. But would you wear, my question to that would be, would you wear that in an interview?
Yeah. If you're treating it like a normal.
Right. You're trying to be as professional as possible. Again, there's a match of skill set. You're looking to see if this person can relate those in an interview. And are you or aren't you, you know, the person that says on the resume, would you wear that headset in when you come in to interview them?
Now, on the flip side, if you're doing like a phone interview, like a screening call, I mean, I don't know if you'd have to go as far as putting the gaming headphone on.
Right.
Yeah.
But definitely, you know,
A lot of people use like Bluetooth headphones.
the
nowadays.
Bluetooth headphones.
That's fine.
I'm like addicted to my Bluetooth headphones now. I
Yeah.
didn't have them pre-COVID, and then I needed to get them because I was on the phone so much more.
They're
And,
amazing.
you know, and I would, you know, just calling like family members, my wife or whatever, you know, she's like, "Oh, wow, you sound a lot clearer," you know, especially if you're driving or like, you know, there's road noise or something, and then you have that. So, you know, that might be a good tip, maybe something that's not so obvious. If you're on the Zoom, you could do something like that.
Yeah.
So,
And we've had quite a handful of people who've had those,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, I'm sure.
headsets on, which, you know, I mean, that's, you know, that's.
Because you can hear better too, and I think that's
Right,
the other
yeah.
problem. You know, again, my experience is more with meetings and things like that. But if you don't have those on, sometimes you just can't hear the person talking across the room. You know, like even the last podcast we had here when Tim was here doing this like farewell thing, I noticed that the audio wasn't like quite there, and it was because, you know, the mics weren't like tuned right. So it's like all those little things make a difference, you know. So, and you don't sometimes know until you go back and look at it afterwards.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Holler, for coming on and giving us some good tips for Zoom meetings and interviews. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
everybody.
Thanks.